Before I get started, Ray Carey has been a shining star in our movement for years and is a personal hero of mine. Thank you, Ray, and for all the task force has done for our community. One more round. Well, I couldn't imagine this room getting any bigger than last year in Seattle, but here we are, and here you are. Summit is a special place, the only time of year so many of us get to see each other, embrace and uplift each other, and the only time of year we are all together. It has long felt like home to me, but this year, Summit is home to me. I live in DC, and when I started in this role 22 months ago, and I heard that Summit would be in Washington, my heart sang. I couldn't wait to welcome you to the city I've built my life in, and the city that all of us belong in. Welcome to Washington, DC. Welcome to Summit. Welcome home. Now, when I say I welcome you to a city where all of us belong, I mean it with all my heart. Washington, D.C. is a powerful symbol for our country and for the world. Yet for our community and personally, our own feelings may shift. They are shaped by who is occupying the White House, what our senators are saying, and how much Congress looks like us or not at all like us. Well, let me share a secret about this country. It is not that we belong here only when the microphone is in our hands. It is that we belong here always. You belong here always. And your leadership is needed now more than ever. This is our movement. During the most trying moments of my life, I've always found hope and resolve in symbols. And as we planned this summit in DC, and I thought so much about the symbolism of this city and the symbols for our country, I kept coming back to one of my favorites in another great American city, the Statue of Liberty. There is so much about this symbol that holds truth for me, that it was a gift, and that it stands the test of time and of space, that it holds the light of hope. But what I want to talk to you about today is the extraordinary poem inscribed on it. Out and Equal is a global organization, and while this statue lives here in the US, right now, as an aspiration more than a promise, when I read this poem, I think less about this country and more about this community. When I recite these words to you, and we have this poem on each of your tables, so you can pin this up in your office, and please remember this moment with me all year. When I recite this poem, consider it our promise to each other, to our giant LGBTQ family. Reimagine this poem, written for us, about us, and to us. A mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. Imprisoned lightning. The brightness of our community cannot be dimmed, but my God, can it be imprisoned? My challenge to you, my ask of you, is to free that light. Your creativity and your queerness, your vulnerability and your strength, your glitter and your eyelashes, free it. Free it in yourselves, free it in each other. You are doing the world no favors when you dim your shine. We need that light, the light that only you have. We need it now more than ever. Mother of Exiles. You know, there's an old queer joke that San Francisco is a city full of people who have disappointed their parents. And our community has a phrase that you know, chosen family. Now, we can have a chosen family even if the one that we were born into has embraced us all of our lives. But for so many in our community, family was not a place of love and protection. And so we turned to each other And to each other, we sought out and became mothers of exiles. And I ask you to keep that promise and that legacy alive, to find someone in your life, in your workplace, in your community that is in exile, and become a mother to them. Hold each other, protect each other, and love each other. Her mild eyes command with silent lips. Cornel West said, "Never forget, justice is what love looks like in public. Let our actions and our words speak for our principles, but let us not just hold these sacred values. Let us speak up and let us act up. This is not the time to behave well, it is the time to behave bravely. Be brave with us." Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. You belong here, no matter where you came from or how you got here, or for how long or how little you've known this space was for you. Whether you feel broken or at the top of your game, you belong here. And I will be saying this to you for as long as I get to stand on this stage. You belong here, with me, with us, and with each other. So this past June, I had the honor of attending a pride ceremony at the Pentagon. Gripping my steering wheel in start and stop DC traffic, my head was a swirl of the headline news recounting the very real harm this administration has inflicted or attempted to with abandon on the LGBTQ community, and even more harshly on the transgender community and on those who love them. Trump's transgender military ban takes effect today. Administration guts trans protections in healthcare. State-sanctioned discrimination against LGBTQ adoptive and foster parents gains administration's approval, and the list goes on and on. Well, that morning, I did what I often do when I feel discouraged. I turn off the radio, and instead, I think about all of you, the heroes and the stories of persistence I've witnessed that give me tremendous hope. I think about some of the most brilliant and fervent changemakers I've ever known, our ERG leaders. Out and Equal's mission is realized in the hearts, focus, and dedicated work of employee resource groups and their leaders. Most of the world sees pride as parades and as logos and buildings lit up with rainbows. So few people, however, know how we got there. Well, we know. It took ERGs and their companies pushing, and their leaders pushing their companies to do more, to see clearly, and to do better. And if you're an ERG leader, know that when I am anxious or outraged over the headlines, I am lifted up brightly by your work and your smiles. And I think about the possibility of our community in our full power when I look to our executive and emerging leaders. We need out at work leaders to grow into the C-suite, and this is part of how we achieve real equality. Well, I am so proud today to share for the first time a groundbreaking new partnership to launch this spring between Out and Equal and Bank of America to invest in rising leaders. Out and Equal's goal is to have 30 out LGBTQ leaders by 2030 in the Fortune 500 C-suite, and that's why we're calling this the 30 by 30 Project. You will hear more about this from us and from Bank of America this week and over the next few months, but this is your warning. We're coming for you, we need your help, and we want you on this journey. I also think about the more than 200 companies who stood with us this week at the Supreme Court through their Friend of the Court brief. I think about what it takes for American Airlines to add a gender non-binary option when you buy a ticket. And I think about Cracker Barrel telling an anti-LGBTQ pastor in Tennessee that he cannot hold events at their restaurants. I think about Walmart taking action on tobacco and gun control. I think about Salesforce on the gender pay gap, Google removing a gay conversion therapy app from the Play Store. All of these actions add up. I think about you being brave and striving for understanding and persisting to do what's right, even when it feels really hard. I was visiting a big tech company a few months ago, and a senior leader told me that they had accomplished all of their pride goals and that the job is now done now that the company offered gender-neutral bathrooms. Before I could utter a word, a more junior employee in the room, a masculine-presenting woman, an ERG leader, politely corrected him. Choking back tears, she shared a scarring experience about an earlier job she had been fired from, a job that she loved, because she chose to wear a suit and tie instead of the dress and heels prescribed for women. And that now, even in this company, they had made great progress, but the job is not done if she can't feel comfortable in the bathroom she chooses to be in, the women's bathroom, because of her gender nonconformity. I was so proud of her courage and authenticity in speaking her truth. The executive listened. He thanked her. They talked about what the next steps might be for their company. ERG leaders have always been and will always be the lifeblood of our work. I think about our global reach. One of the most powerful experiences of my year was going to London last spring at the invitation of an inspiring new NGO, LGBTQ Women, a global organization dedicated to uplifting queer women's leadership and voices through the lens of mentorship and connection. Well, the cornerstone of this trip was our visit to Parliament, the same day of the spring Brexit vote. Proudly an openly gay member of Parliament, Nick Herbert, ushered us to our special seats just above the chamber to listen to the debate live. MP Herbert then joined our program, welcomed hundreds of queer people and allies gathered together, and then ran back to the Parliament floor for the actual vote. We have a full and equal voice in many of the world's biggest democracies. And yes, I think about discrimination and the real violence our community is facing. We cannot forget Matthew Shepard, or Pulse, or the cruel murders of Black trans women, or the threats of being stoned to death by brutal regimes. It is police brutality and family separations and poverty. Our community is bound in every corner of oppression and in every possibility of liberation. But I also witnessed what you're doing to stand up to oppression and violence. Not long after the election of bitterly homophobic Brazilian President Bolsonaro, I visited our community in São Paulo for our annual forum. Well, one day, after conducting a jam-packed series of inspirational meetings with companies and their ERG leaders, I took a long taxi ride to a safe house for LGBT youth called Casa Un. Casa Un had grown into a vibrant, comprehensive community center, offering job and language training, interview preparation, health and counseling services. And do you know what? In those rooms, I saw some of the same corporate ERG leaders I had seen in other meetings that day, who had left their jobs and traveled to the center to help out their friends. It reminds me that when we are in the depths of terrifying headlines, some heroes run towards danger, often locked arm in arm. Look around, because those heroes are in this room. So back to that day in June, on my way to the Pentagon's Pride celebration. I parked my car, and I made my way through the security checks, not really knowing what to expect. And I found myself moved to tears. The ceremony reminded me why this government, our government, is built this exact way. America has always been about more than our commander-in-chief. This administration has consistently worked from day one to dismantle the rights of our LGBTQ service members, and yet, nonetheless, the ceremony went ahead. Pride for our military endures. I sat down, and right in front of me, in the first row, right where they ought to be, were several transgender military service members. In fact, these were some of the same individuals who bravely testified on Capitol Hill. Their bravery has never been in question. Their integrity, their service, their sacrifice and valor. But that day I wondered, will their service be denied or their careers be halted? So I quietly pulled one of them aside and I said, "Will you be okay? Is this okay?" With head held high, they responded, "Yes, this is okay. And even if it's not, we're not going to stop standing here and standing up. We're not going anywhere." And that, my friends, is easily our mantra too. We're not going anywhere. Last year, I asked all of you to go on a journey with me towards belonging. And the first step in that was knowing that you're seen and that you see others. I asked you to say with me, "I see you." And you did, over and over again, when I was in the room and when I wasn't. You looked at your colleagues, your friends, your community, and you said, "I see you." Well, this year, we are facing a set of challenges that are some of the most heartbreaking and astonishing I've seen in my lifetime. And it requires us each to stand firmly together and resolve to stay in connection with each other, defend each other, protect each other, belong with each other, and in the face of people and of administrations that would take our rights, our hope, and our power. We need to stand together and let everyone know we're not going anywhere. So I heard you during that step, Africa, so I want you to say that with me, okay? And when you decide how loud you're gonna be right now, I just want you to remember, we are only just across the river and down the road from some people who really need to hear this. We're not going anywhere. Say it with me loud. We're not going anywhere. When our community in Brazil has a president who'd say he'd rather have a dead son than a gay son, and his homophobic remarks spark an uptick in violence against our LGBTQ people, we'll tell the family in Brazil and we'll tell the brave leaders in this room, we're not going anywhere. When Black and brown trans women are murdered in the streets, when there's so little justice for our community, when there are people who would tell us not to shout so loud, we'll say to them, we're not going anywhere. When Gen Z is unsure of what the workplace holds for them, if they'll be able to be as visibly out at work as they were in college, we'll tell our young people, we're not going anywhere. When a generation of older gay men asks us if anyone will remember the crisis, if we'll hold their scars and stay focused on love and compassion in the face of ignorance and fear, we'll tell our elders, we're not going anywhere. When our gender non-binary and gender non-conforming siblings ask if we'll keep restrooms access safe, pronouns intentional, dress codes progressing, and the community welcoming, we'll tell them we're not going anywhere. When our community that lives in the South asks if we'll leave them behind, forget their struggle, or we'll uplift their unique and critical need for equality, we'll tell them we're not going anywhere. And when the United States Supreme Court debates the most basic of our rights, when they come back with a decision, no matter what that decision is, we will tell them, that court, and we will tell those who would take away from us the right and dignity of work, we're not going anywhere. One more time, we're not going anywhere. Thank you for saying that with me, for saying that to each other, for saying that to yourself. We have a tough year ahead of us, and every time you feel alone, remember this moment, this tribe that is surrounding you right now, and know that we aren't going anywhere. None of us are free until all of us are free, and we are not done until all of us are protected. Harvey Milk had to leave the Navy after being interrogated about whether he was gay. He was heartbroken to have left the service that meant so much to him with a less than honorable discharge. In fact, Harvey was wearing his Navy belt the night he was assassinated. A few years ago, the Navy came to his nephew, Stuart, and they told him they'd like to reverse it, that they wanted to discharge him with honor. Stuart said no. Then, President Obama called him personally and asked him to reconsider. He said no again. He told the president that we cannot erase the wrongs of the past, we must embrace our history. And Stuart told all of us in the audience of Pentagon Pride that day, if we ever need evidence that things can change so that we don't lose hope, think about Harvey's story and think about this. In just a few years from now, the completion and launch of the USNS Harvey Milk Navy ship defiantly and proudly pulling into harbor. Think about our community commemorating Stonewall 50 at Pride events around the world this summer, not just celebrating, but recognizing the painful parts of the past and bringing in stories often left out of the narrative, meaning telling the whole story. And we must tell the whole story. If we don't, we lose the voice of Marcia, the bravery of Sylvia, the persistence of Frank, and the leadership of Harvey. These are our heroes. They belong to us. They are watching us, and they're urging us to be like them, to be loud and united and unafraid, to be intersectional and strategic and kind, to be ourselves and to see and hold each other in light, in love, in justice, and to know that no matter what, we aren't going anywhere. Are you with me? Are you with me? Thank you, and welcome to Summit.